Welcome, Sandu, that was. So today we're going to be talking about the consciousness spectrum. Don't worry, I'll get to that in a minute. We're going to be talking about swing feel, and we're going to look at Tiger Woods and the way that he has a perfect combination of classical training and jazz creativity, and that sort of gives him that unique edge, allows him to adapt in situations, all the while falling back on a solid grounding of technical prowess. So let's talk a little bit about consciousness levels. Now, this applies to this Tiger Woods analogy in a really unique way, because the four stages that we have unconscious incompetence. That is to say, we don't know what we're doing, and we don't know why we don't know what we're doing. We have conscious incompetence, so we know we know that we don't know what we're doing. If you know, we're aware of the fact that we don't know what we're doing. Then you have conscious competence. That means to say we're getting things right, but we're having to think about it quite a lot. And then right at the top, that's the kind of gold standard. That's the unconscious competence. That is in the zone, things are flowing through us. We don't really know why. Things are working nicely. There's a lot, you're being natural, you're in the zone, and you're flowing freely. So those are the four levels. So unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence at the top. So that's what we're aiming for with this kind of traffic light system, if you like. So we're aiming to be in a situation where we don't have to think, things just flow through us. We don't know why things are working, but they're working. Okay. There's a I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think there's about a maximum of 6 or 7 things that we can concentrate on at one time. So what we're trying to aim to do in an ideal world is minimize the actual things that we have to concentrate on with our thoughts. So we fall back on things like muscle memory. That's a term that's banded around quite a lot. Now, in this sort of situation, the way that applies to improvisation. And I use Tiger Woods as an analogy in this because the way that Tiger Woods plays is very unusual, in that golf is a canon just like music, and there's structures, strictures, rules, training, all of that kind of stuff, established patterns of technique, all of that kind of stuff. It is a school of literature, just like music is. Now, the reason that Tiger Woods is so unique is because he's been able to be creative and innovative whilst having a really solid technique as well. So with this little diagram that I'm going to pop on the screen just now, we'll see what I mean by that. The 80% of his golf swing, if you like, is based and rooted in a solid technique and training, with all of the canons and all of the kind of school of literature and teachings and all of that kind of thing that go with that. And you can compare that to a contemporary player. Well, I pick one at random like Schofield or Kurt Rosenwinkel or one of those kind of players. They have a solid grounding in technique, a solid knowledge of harmony, but what gives them their unique sound is the way that they twist and adapt, and the kind of path that they follow, the river that they follow down to the sea, if you like. So that's the diagram with, and then you'll see at the bottom there's like roughly 20% that I've kind of I've ripped this off from an Accenture advert, by the way. So apologies for that. I'll probably get a copyright strike. Never mind, who cares? So yeah, 20% of the bottom there, we've got the jazz bit of it. That is to say, we've taken care of all the muscle memory, we've taken care of all of the sort of technical side of stuff, and it just leaves you with that room to innovate, adapt, create. What's that? There's another meme, there's a Bear Grylls meme, which I'm going to put on the screen now. Yes, that one, yes. Wonderful, isn't it? But it's, this is the thing, adapt, overcome, that, etc., etc. Because it's not a known quantity, it's a human thing. Improvising is something that obviously as you do it, you've got 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes worth of solos. You're going to encounter areas of tension, areas of kind of where you're going to have to problem solve based on what's happening around you, the rhythm, the changes, all of that kind of stuff. There's particular challenges with that tune. So what we're aiming to do through our practice and grounding a good technique is to minimize the amount of things that we need to think on. Okay? Unconscious competence as opposed to unconscious incompetence, and those two things in between, which I can try and remember, but there's a bit of a tongue twister. So there we are. So the aim with this is to, through this practice regime, I'm going to list the 4 things that I think are an absolute gold standard for practicing. I feel, I said in my last video, probably caused lots of controversy with it, is that I don't feel that people should be practicing in most cases, should be actually practicing as opposed to playing. They're two separate things. Actually practicing more than 20 minutes a day. So, okay, 5 minutes scales and arpeggios, 5 minutes picking, articulation, 5 minutes sight reading, and 5 minutes chord vocabulary. Fit a lot of information and intensity into those 5 minutes, and by the end of that 20 minutes you should be completely exhausted. That leaves you the rest of the day to play and enjoy and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I've talked about that in the last video. The link's in the comments if you want to check that out. I sort of go into things in a bit more detail there. So we're going to talk about, we're going to apply this to this tune, Sandu. I'm going to talk a little bit about swing feel as well, because this is another thing. Having a good technique will allow you to adapt how you play over swing feels. Okay, so what we're talking about doing here, over this swing feel in particular, it's quite an interesting tempo, this sort of medium swing, because it's not straight, it's not the kind of faster, straighter sort of swing feel, it's not the slower, kind of more triplety, shuffly type of swing feel, it's in between. It's quite unique, and actually the challenges are quite unique as well. With this, it's vital that we have a good articulation sort of stock default skill to fall back on. Okay, what I'm going to talk about now is the way that we phrase and the way that we can pull forward or back on the beat, depending on the tempo of the swing feel. Okay, so I'm just going to play a little bit over this backing track, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm trying to get at. So straight away we've got quite a nice laid back on the back end of the beat sort of feel. Okay, so it's sort of cheeky, audacious, lazy sort of thing, you know, like those kind of words. It's not right on the... That would be like another tighter end of the spec. See how far I'm pulling back on that beat there? Done there is I've taken it to the extreme there to try and sort of show you how far on the back end of the beat that you can sit with this kind of medium swing. Okay, and you can actually really experiment with this. By the way, this backing track, as all of the resource material in all of these lessons, is available on my Bandcamp. Check the link below in the show notes. There's loads of stuff on there. There's 3 whole albums of backing tracks, all played by me. I'm playing all the parts, and I've spent a lot of time trying to working on the swing feels and making them nice and intuitive and easy to play with. So there's no MIDI to do with any of it at all. It's all played through, so it's like you're slotting in with a band, in a jam session. So do go and check those out. You can get a few free plays and see what you think. They're really cheap. They're £1 each. The link to this track, Sandu, Clifford Brown, is in the show notes. Do go and check it out. Download if you like. It's in really good quality if you download it as a WAV file. So that's the track that we're working on here. This particular tempo, like I've said, is quite unique, and so you can pull the rhythm around quite a lot on this. Okay, and you can really sit. I like to sit. It's like holding on off the back end of a cart kind of thing. You're sort of really hanging off the back end of that beat. Imagine you've got a lasso around the top of that quaver, and you're kind of pulling off the back of it, rather than sitting on the front of the beat, which you would do with maybe a Latin or a funk type of feel, or maybe even a faster swing, where you have that more urgency and imperative. But with this kind of medium swing, you're aiming to be as lazy, as audacious, lackadaisical maybe, and you can kind of sit on the back end of the beat like I just demonstrated. So experiment with that, see how far back you can pull and lay back as much as you can to see where that kind of threshold is for you. And you'll see that actually it's a really useful thing. Now, the way this relates to the technical side of things is this. What I'd like you to do is particularly concentrate on the up pick. Okay, what we're aiming to do with this kind of swing feel is to put a slight accentuation on the up pick. So you've got this. So as opposed to the kind of strip. The swing feel derived from the triplet pattern, quaver triplet thing. You've got more of a kind of. And the dead notes, like Jacko said, the dead notes are where the real magic is. Okay, that's what's really important with this stuff. Okay, so that's what I suggest you concentrate on filling in the gaps with these kind of with these dead notes. Practice regime, you have this 5 minutes that I recommend for concentrating on picking. This is possibly some of the things that you can slot into that. So work on playing your lines, but over accenting and over exaggerating the up picks on everything. Okay, so. Obviously, occasionally with your picking, your offbeat accents are going to end up on the down pick. Don't worry too much about that, I would say, to begin with. But for your practice section, your 5 minute practice section on articulation and picking, think about that up pick and the accentuating things on that up pick. Now, also with the picking angle, I'd just like to talk a little bit about picking angle. Okay, what I like to do is to set the pick slightly off center, so you get this range of sounds when you pick. If you were to pick straight perpendicular with the fretboard, you get this quite twangy sound, and then if you were to 45 degrees, you get more of a softer velocity, but then in between you get this nice contrast of both. You get a nice clear sound. And now I like to angle the pick slightly towards the floor as well, so it almost falls across the string. And you're using this nice curved area of the pick. I hope that camera's focusing. This nice curved area of the pick here to your advantage. Okay, that will give you a nice sort of Pat Metheny-esque type of quality to the note. With your picking section of your practice, that 5 minutes on picking and articulation, what I recommend you do is imagine that you have a portamento setting like you do on the old 80s keyboards. Okay, now the aim with this section, this kind of practice, is to produce almost identical velocities with every pick. Okay, so when you play up and down your scales, try to avoid this is the thing you kind of should be listening out for any kind of big accents in the notes. Okay, that will kind of expose any sort of deficiencies with your picking. So you want to aim to get. Imagine they're being played on a keyboard that doesn't have touch sensitivity, if you like. That's the thing. Rather than. Trying to get aim to get the sound, the actual sound quality of each note the same as well. Overpicking is a really kind of a bad situation to be in, because you're kind of forcing the guitar to do things it's not really designed to do. So you want a nice stop position, and this is the sort of joy of doing that kind of repetitive, little and often style of practice. That these kind of things will kind of go in, they'll be absorbed into your kind of autonomous and kind of default settings, if you like, more readily. So. You can also practice your kind of free lines, if you like, but with a special emphasis with your thinking on getting the velocity of your picking absolutely dead central the whole way through. Think about your articulation. I like to do a ghost picking exercise, so you imagine, hopefully this camera will focus here, so you don't pick anything, and that will teach your right hand exactly the point that your left hand hits the fretboard. So effectively you're hammering on. So the aim here is to pick at exactly the point, that your left hand fingers hit the fretboard. So once you've done that a few times, you can then gradually put your right hand onto the picking position. What this will do is also will kind of automatically give you a nice legato type of sound, which is again one of the main goals I should recommend of the picking and articulation section of your practice routine. Okay. Now once we've got this is the great thing. Once you've got that kind of nice default position, you can then start to emphasize the offbeats or the onbeats depending on the feel of the piece you're playing over. So just to recap, we've got this piece Sandu. Okay, it's a medium swing. Okay, so with your practicing towards the swing feel, or kind of your aims and emphasis, and you're practicing towards getting a good swing feel, aim to be on the back end of the beat, aim to emphasize the offbeat. Now in your practice, utilize that sort of funny little trick of ghost picking to try and kind of marry up and get some synergy between your left hand and your right hand, and by synergy I mean absolutely working together. Okay. In fact, I sort of think that 99% of the work should be done with your left hand. With the picking hand, you're only kind of helping that note along. You shouldn't be generating the force of the force of the note with the picking. It should be mainly done with your left hand. The right hand is excuse me. The right hand is mainly there just to kind of help that along. That will give you a really nice start to the note. It will give you a really nice legato kind of fashion to things as well. So those are the kind of, the upsides and the advantages to using those systems in practice. So have a think about this. I would recommend getting on Google and having a look at these kind of 4 levels of consciousness: the unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence. That is to say, that is the kind of gold standard. You're not thinking about stuff, and you're kind of everything's flowing from you. That kind of flow, being in the zone state, is what we're all aiming for. Now, if we relate back to that Tiger Woods picture, all of the sort of basis and the kind of work that we've done on our technique is to get us into a position where we have to think about the least things possible during when we're playing. When, let's face it, during gigs, there's lots of things that are thrown at you during recording sessions and jam sessions. You're in unfamiliar environments. You're playing probably on someone else's instrument. You have the noisy bastard on the front row. You have maybe one dreadful musician in the band who's kind of freaking everyone out. You've got lots of variables there. Okay, so minimizing the variables. The last thing you need is to kind of have concerns with your picking and sort of some of the minutiae about your technique. So these are the things that I think are worth thinking about. Do check out my website, www.simonpeterking.com. The links in the description will take you to the Bandcamp page. There's loads of really high quality backings there, as I keep saying, as I will continue to keep saying. The Sandu track is also listed there as well, and I recommend. They're only £1, so what is it? It's like half of a Costa coffee or whatever the hell that is now. That's even like £2.50 for a Costa coffee. It's criminal. Anyway, there we are. So that's that. So get yourself into a position where you can be more on top of your technique to the point that you don't have to concentrate on it as much, and it leaves you more room for adaptation. Okay. Anyway, lovely to talk to you, and we'll see you next time.